You have rightly commented that I use keyboard shortcuts a lot. And I have gone back to you and said, yeah, but you can control click and stuff. And I found that my control click menu needed some work. So for the last few weeks, we've been optimizing that. Unfortunately, my programmer got ill over the last few days, so some of the latest things we haven't done. But the first thing I will show you is something you have to use a key for, and that is the escape key, because
Okay.
that goes in and out of full screen.
Oh, that's interesting. That's nice.
So I think that's actually quite a major thing because it means you so quickly have full screen that you can work in full screen and go out, and it's just nothing to worry about. Because we're following, excuse me, following this. So that was the first thing already done.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we'll briefly look at themes. One thing I really don't like is accessibility because the notion that someone is deficient, I find is a bit limiting. We are all on spectrum of how we are visually, mentally, our background, all that stuff. So
Mhm.
when it comes to purely visual, in the light mode, you have these colors you can choose. And they've all been, I'm very, very focused on the actual text, not just capability. So I've been going through honing this again and again and again over years. I tend to work on the low contrast gray, but I'm just going to briefly show you also what it is in dark mode. Do you normally work in dark mode or light mode?
I work in light mode generally.
Yeah, me too. I find that my eyes need that bit of light in order to
I
properly
think that
look.
the dark mode contrast isn't satisfying for me for some reason, and so I'm much more comfortable with light mode. It could be just force of habit, of course.
It's the same with me, but when I was at the Grout Show a few months ago and I was working in this mode, uh, Evie, one of the baristas there, she said, "Oh, this was horrible for her. She wanted fully black."
Oh my, really? Wow.
And that's okay. I just had to accept that. So that basically became my hypertext paper this year, pointing out that we're on different, our receptors work slightly differently.
So, one of the worries that I have about elaborate configurability is that it takes a certain amount of understanding even to explore the configurations that are available. And I worry that a lot of people won't have the patience or even the cognitive comfort level to try to configure things the way they would like. I wonder whether you could imagine an AI like thing that asks questions and is, let me use the word smart enough, to um, show the user what it would look like if you made various choices or tried to select choices that looked like they were compatible with what this user is interested in. No idea if that makes any sense, but it feels to me like we're on the edge of being able to do kind of conversational things instead of going into the settings mode and searching down and clicking on things to try to pick what's appropriate.
I highly agree, and this is my approach for how we need to move into XR. It seems more appropriate. You put your big headset on, and then you go through even a speaking assistant saying, "Hey, do you like this or that? Should we try that?" Like that kind of thing. Yes, absolutely, fully agree.
So that's an interesting example of uh, an interaction which has consequences. Um, Even though I'm becoming quite nervous about artificial intelligence programs that have real world impact, out of a concern that we don't always know what the scope of their action might be. And if they're doing transactions in the real world, uh, and it misunderstands something, and I don't mean to over anthropomorphize, uh, the consequences could be significant. And I think we don't yet know how to bound the potential misbehavior of some of these machine learning tools. So I'm concerned as we give them more and more capability to influence the real world, we also give them an opportunity to cause a lot of trouble.
Some of this will be addressed here. I'm not pretending I have a solution, but I have a perspective. So that is down here. So I'm just going to show you now, because I do agree with you, is basically my point. So let's say we've written this, and here we want to add an end note at this insertion point. So now I control click, and these are the options for when I don't have text selected. So this is a note. If I now, don't worry, we're going to look at this in a bit. But just for that one piece, zoom in. Oh, I don't need this. You see, here's the number one, and you click on it and you get the end note. So then we will look at citations. Let's say we want to cite a book here. We can also then control click and choose citation or command T. So this is one thing other software doesn't have, keyboard shortcut in the control click menu. It's how to teach people. So let's say the information, it's a good book. There it is, James Gleick. This is all just fine, automatically gotten from Google. Thank you, Google. And it shows up like this.
Wow, that's amazing. That is nice.
Yeah, it is very nice that these APIs are available. So if I now export and we zoom in, you click on the number one in brackets. It does that. But if you click on it, it will open the do a Google search for it. Of course.
I'm sure that you're well aware of this, but a lot of what you're doing is so reminiscent of the 1968 demo because it has the same sort of rapid fire visual feel to it that Doug's demo did. It's really actually rather cool. But of course, the richness of what you're doing is significant compared to what Doug was able to do so many years ago.
It's beautiful to hear you say that, but there is one major deficit when everything now compared to what he had. Do you remember he did this map for buying groceries on the way home?
Oh, yes, right.
The way that that was nonlinear and completely integrated is hard now. It's crazy, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that is, yeah, it's amazing what he was able to do. Yeah.
of course, we have we're trying to do something along those lines here, which I will get to. But let's go back to this. Yeah, so let's cite, we're now going to cite academic papers. Here's one by you. So this is on the ACM Digital Library. Click PDF. And there it is. Save, put it on the desktop.
Wow.
Go to the desktop and open it up. And of course, it has no metadata at all. But
yes.
If I now go back to the download page, there's a DOI, copy the DOI, and then I just paste it. It now has the metadata. No, it doesn't.
Nice.
Hang on. Why didn't that? That didn't resolve today.
That's scary.
Okay. But that's okay in this context because we can now go to the BibTeX, which is on the download page. We paste that, and that now becomes a full metadata thing right there.
Wow.
So that means that if I now add this to the library, okay, keyboard shortcut, I admit, I haven't done much in it's Command-Shift-L. It now has this. So if I now look at the library, I can just type in Vint, and it has what it found. But if we go to this one, which is a more modern document, click on the PDF, save that, put it on the desktop. I thought I put it on the desktop. Yeah, of course. Here it is. So also nothing. But if I now, because if you look at my settings under metadata, it says that when adding to the library, look for a DOI and extract entities and names. So let's do that. So now it does two things. First thing is just the basic metadata. Then it sends it to ChatGPT to extract any names. So that gives us this metadata and all these names, which can now be used for searching,
Wow.
because that's known by the library. Thank you. So for instance, if I just copy the word Eastgate, go to the library, do a search, Eastgate, that shows up here. It's yellow because it's been added to the library, not read yet. And that's how we download it. If I now want to cite this paper, control click, copy to cite, without selecting text, go back to author, and I'm just going to add it down here, paste, and it pastes it as a citation. If I select text, let's zoom in a bit, and it may very well have PDF issues, but that's okay. Copy quote, and then I'm going to give it some space, paste. So it adds the text plus the citation. Now, this is really quite fun because there's an additional layer on this. So this paper that we just did that with, of course, if I click on that citation, you see the title and the author names, right?
Right.
But I have this paper in my library. So if I click on the title, it opens that paper to the page that was cited.
Wow. Oh, that's interesting. So that's we're getting high resolution referencing in effect.
Yeah, all we do is the page at this point, but at least
That's much better. That's much better, especially if it's a large reference.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the notion of page, okay, I guess that works because PDF is page oriented. This is an interesting conundrum, I think, in a way, because a web page doesn't necessarily have the notion of page number, whereas printed text still does because of the history. How do you feel about the I would say the disparity between web pages and PDF?
I feel that it's fine to have things free flowing, like it even is here in Reader. But I also think there's value in layout. So I'm writing 2 articles for the book that are almost finished on reading a 2-page spread, because I think a 2-page spread on a 16-inch laptop is probably ideal. So what I want for the book in the future is for people to submit maximum 2-page spread. They can have more than one article, that's fine, but that's one thinking space. And that's why I was so happy to meet with Bill Atkinson, who developed HyperCard back in January, because he said a card rather than scrolling it's like a unit of thought. It's a thing. So you still need to be able to break out of that 2-page spread, no question. Full, rich interactivity is super important, but for just reading, that kind of...
A question about the 2-page spread. When you click to next page, do you get the next 2, or do you shift 1 page over?
Okay, I'll show you hopefully something better than that, although I've had a crash issue with this now, so let's hope we're lucky. So I did escape in Reader to go full screen. So to answer your first question, let me just get somewhere okay. If you do the right arrow, it goes double page, double page.
Got it, okay.
But if you do down arrow, this is the thing. We're doing some updates, but when you do down arrow, that's supposed to go to the next level 1 heading.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Point of that being, you can then navigate a huge work much faster.
Yes.
So Fabien, one of my colleagues, he suggested that for testing, see now we had a crash problem there. Let me just open it up again, see if we get lucky. Okay. He had a notion that we should take a book and paste all the pages on a wall in XR or physically, just to have an overview. So I did that as a mock-up, and I found that generally inside an article, there isn't that much visual for you. So if you show the first page or the first two-page spread, it's very easy to get an overview. So that's why a key to go from article to article rather than through, like some people did massive articles and they become kind of stumbling blocks in a way.
One of the things that made Engelbart's NLS style so appealing was the ability to see this in various structured ways, to see the
Yes.
text, and the idea of seeing the first line or the top first paragraphs or first sentence of every paragraph, um, and the discipline that goes along with recognizing how to use that feature was really quite astonishing. I mean, the idea of compressing a lengthy article that way and still have it be meaningfully readable is really astonishing.
Yes, it is. And I look forward to showing you something on that in a minute. So that's very exciting. A small detour, though, into the PDF reader interactions. So we have, of course, built-in AI. So that's all these prompts you can see here, and you can edit them yourself. And now that these LLMs have become speedy, they're actually useful. So that's quite basic. But one of the things we have that's in a different way is, let's say you run one to extract information for a library catalog. You can then click to save this as metadata. So it goes into the visual meta. So that's a bit different. Yeah, then we have all the normal things that you know extremely well. But also we have annotations. You can annotate things based on what you think. Like this is important. You can annotate as in, this is really quotable. And if you now fold it into, excuse me, you can now, when you don't select text, you do view. You can do view all annotations or only the ones that are quotable, for instance. So I'm hoping that we can develop the means through which, whether you're reading here or an XR, the way that you highlight something has meaning that you can have access to later. So you could say, show me everything that I've considered quotable in this series of documents, or that I decided was quotable when I was in London, or that I, in the morning. So metadata is attached to all of this as well.
An interesting, I'm making a note here. I realized that I never delivered anything to you, and I suppose it's a little late now for the volume, but
not for you if you want to write something.
Well, I'm just now, this demonstration is generating some interesting ideas for me. This is going to sound very primitive or maybe overly simple, but just in the last moment or two, it's dawned on me that what you have done with these tools is to allow us to overlay on text properties of that text. And the notion that you can take raw text and imbue it with a variety of properties, like it's a reference or it's a quotable thing, or and so on, is actually quite fundamental and extraordinary. And I know that it's going to sound stupid in the sense of why the hell didn't I say that, 5 years ago or 10 years ago? But it's only just listening and watching you interacting with and labeling pieces of text that I've realized this rich vocabulary that you've invented and the mechanics to realize it that lets you assign a variety of properties to what would otherwise be raw text. And it's for me anyway, it's dawning on me that it's created a multi-layer labeling scheme that changes the way you think about text and how you work with it, how you interact with it, how you consume it or produce it. Now, isn't that everything that you've been saying for who knows how long. But this is the first time I've thought about it in terms of raw text and this incredible universe of properties that it could have and what the implications are of that.
Yeah, I'm very happy to discuss this topic. We don't have that much time. In 20 minutes, the rest of the team comes on this channel for the normal Monday call. But it is really, really important what you're saying. And I can't think of a better name than smart text. I'll go back to that in a few seconds. Just wanted to show you here, just to go through the kind of the script. If you do find and in document or command F, it does it. Well, okay. Yeah, this is the problem with the new macOS. Some of the things are not compatible yet. But you can also, from the same find, choose to find in library or online. Online, of course, just does a Google search, right? So here it found in the library. Now, the reason it's so pertinent for you to say that now is because if we look at copy to site, as you've just seen, and we go in here and we paste it and we have this, what was pasted was not plain text or formatted text. It was a unit of knowledge.
Mm.
So what I'm looking for is in the same way that you can, define, I'm going to do it this way. The same way you can define text here. Let's define my name. That's a bit more reasonable than that word. So I control click, define, and here it is. I'm a person, blah, blah, blah. This is now part of the glossary. It's also in the map. So here I am. If something is mentioned in the definition of me, I can also control click here. So go back to define. Then there's a line to it. So I want to be able to not only copy citations, but also to be able to copy defined concepts. And I think we can go much further with that.
Oh, I'm sure you can. In fact, what you've just implied for me anyway is that you're creating a personal knowledge graph. And the idea that you could have a personal knowledge graph which grows over time and covers multiple documents and isn't confined to one document is a very interesting kind of asset.
Yes, and this is what I'm working with Fabienne on now to bring into XR, so that not only because XR is better, it is not necessarily better, but it means it's a different thing, which means it has to be portable, which I think is very useful. And also, I need to credit my colleague Dini with some of the color highlighting, because in XR she wants to be able to annotate like crazy. And we've decided that annotations include pulling things out and putting it on the side, like snippets.
So be careful about color as a tool. We've had this conversation before about color blindness, for example, and other kinds of deficiencies.
Yeah.
We have to be able to accommodate for that. But before I realize we're going to run out of time here, but the idea of creating a knowledge graph opens up a really interesting possibility, and that's allowing multiple knowledge graphs to be aware of each other, or to share portions of your knowledge graph with other people, or even contribute portions of a knowledge graph to let's say a community knowledge graph.
Yeah.
Some kind. I'm not sure that I can see how to make that work, given that people will use the same term to mean different things. So we could run into some collisions that way. But the idea of having even a personal knowledge graph, which you can reference at need, is extremely attractive, especially if you're having trouble remembering things.
So that brings us back, without on the record talking about why, but to our very earliest conversation about memory. And of course, memory palaces are interesting. So what I've been writing about, and that I'll share with you later, is the idea of having a 3D model of knowledge in space is kind of obvious. But as you dig into it, it becomes extremely difficult, because what do you mean by space? Is it the Vision OS or the Meta desktop? Is it inside an app? Is it web-based? And also, as you said, how does it connect to another space sculpture in the room? So that is something we're working on. And I hope that if we can continue getting the kind of funding that we have now with Sloan, we can really experiment with, because it kind of has to be built to be experimented with. I completely agree with you. The ability to create and shape knowledge objects that can be connected and nested, and to have that shareable with others, either live or as a snapshot, will be very, very important.
I wish there were a way to marry this somehow with Bob Kahn's digital object architecture, because he has a framework for referencing, but never really developed all of the semantics that could be associated with an object. And that's what you're doing. I mean, you're creating a vocabulary to imbue objects with properties.
Yes. Actually, let's pick that up at the end, because we may have an overlap with some people coming in. But just briefly, Chris Gutteridge had the notion of, in this space, in a normal computer, anybody can move icons on the desktop. Not everybody can open because they don't own all the software. So we think of these knowledge objects as icons on the desktop. So you can embed incredibly powerful things. So you paid lots of money for special software, share it with other people. It doesn't mean they can run what's inside, but they know what's represented. So there are things. Okay, I just want to show you a few more things. One of them is, if you cut something, normal Command X, you see, just because of you, it's now on the context menu. It wasn't before, but it is important because we have something called cuttings, which isn't on there. It's going to be on top when you don't have anything selected. It'll also be at the bar here at the bottom. So when you invoke that, you get everything you've ever cut.
Oh, that's really nice.
And it will be not small like that. It will be full screen. It won't be wrapped. So as you're developing a document, you can cut things you don't know where you want them. And when you want them back, you just double click and they go in.
I love that, because I'm so frustrated with the one level deep cut and paste. It drives me crazy, because there are times when I want to cut multiple things and then refer to them in a different order.
Ah, good. Yeah, I'm very, very glad you like that. I had a meeting with Jonathan Finn, who's helping proofread the book, and I showed that as a small feature, and he also said we should make it bigger. So now we're making it more available, which is the whole point of having a defined and polished control-click menu. So the next thing is AI, just briefly. AI in Author is to augment you, not to do the work for you. So one of the default ones, which also has a keyboard shortcut if you want it, is, if this is a question, answer it. If it's not a question, inspire me as to what else I might think about. And so here it comes back, it's quite good. And this thing was done, the next time I want to show you, it's called Polish now. It will be called Proofread. So it does the proofreading for you, but it only suggests things. So you can take it or leave it. The built-in Apple one, which was available after this was done, comes up on the side, and it's really good. But the problem is you can't really see what it's suggesting. So if I now click replace, I can see something moved, but I don't know what it did.
Ah, good point.
So these are just different perspectives. And then we have, yes, okay. So very much related to what you talked about earlier. When there's something that really says what a paragraph is, you can control click and mark it, or command single quote. Makes it bold and orange. The idea for that is, Doug's idea of first line or first sentence doesn't always work. If you're writing for someone else, that may have to be introductory fluff, just to have it flow, right? So this is bold, but we're going to do this here again. So it may be a single word, it may be a sentence, whatever. But here's the key. If I now click here at the bottom for outline, they show up. When you export the document, you can choose to have that text removed or just the formatting removed. So you could actually just write your own thing. This is a key. So if you do something like this, you don't want that to be on exports, so it'll automatically be removed. It depends on your writing style. Let me just check, yeah. So, sorry. Yeah, so you see now, when I go into the outline by clicking here or doing Command minus, I get the headings plus that orange text.
I have a question about whether you have ever talked to David Nordfors about this.
Not about this. I have talked to him briefly, but of course, I'd love to talk to him more. He's a brilliant guy.
You definitely need to talk to him. He's been developing tools that are consistent in their philosophy. It's not mechanically the same, but it's very consistent with rapid application of AI-based tools. So I'm going to take an action to ask him to get in touch with you. You guys should have a conversation.
That would be really, really good. Thank you.
He's actually looking to move away from where he is right now. He wants to find a place where he can explore his ideas more. The
Oh, really?
company he's working with is kind of limiting now his imagination. He's transformed himself from what he was. Now he's an AI guy with remarkable creativity. So the two of you should resonate, I think.
That would be really, really good. Really good. Thank you. We're just running out of time a little bit, so I'm just going to skip into some future things.
Okay.
And this is right. So as you saw here, when we export, we have quite a few options for formatting and so on. But what I've realized over the last few days was this. I'll show you a screenshot. So this is what?
Ooh, that was interesting.
That's not an error I want to see. And I've just
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by errors I've never seen before.
okay, that's a bit of a problem. Hang on. Maybe I have the same here. No. I have to use the same screenshots for a few different things. Okay, let's forget about that and look at this. So what we're going to do, when you export, there will be a series of fields for abstract keyword names and concepts. You can choose to, just going to click here so I can see you again. You can choose to have them AI filled in,
Okay.
analyzing the document. So the point is that the author is fully in control. If they want to just use the AI, fine. If they want to do their own, fine. But it means that in a library situation, all of these are highlighted as metadata.
That's really amazing.
So that goes into volume reading.
Wow.
Because in the future of text, even before, to get people to keyword their own articles is near impossible, and it's usually bad, including myself.
Yes.
But to have an LLM do it for you, especially because I now use yours, I use the Google Notebook LM, where I have ingested, here it is. No, here it is. The entirety of the Future of Text volume 1 through 4. So I'm helping to teach the LLMs what we've already done so it can better contextualize it, which is just amazing. Yeah, the final thing really is just this, the mapping thing, which I think you know from before. And as I also think you know, if I click here at the bottom on export, put on the desktop, it now exports all those terms as a, excuse me, I'll go back, as a glossary.
God, that is really amazing. I mean, the facility here is phenomenal. Wow.
Thank you. The fun thing with the glossary is that it's also in the metadata.
Yeah.
So I'm working with Fabienne now to have this go into XR so that not only do you get a flat document, you also get this in a headset. And then the question becomes, by the way, just really briefly, once you have a lot on a big screen, selecting becomes an issue. Hang on, let me get rid of the zoom bar. So that's why we have show here at the bottom. So I can now, and this you really need to learn the keyboard shortcuts, but it doesn't take long. So option 2 is hide all people and then bring back people. So you'll notice that you didn't disappear because you haven't been tagged as a person yet. We'll do that again. So if I turn off and on, all the people are selected,
See, yeah,
right? And now, bottom right, I can now align left, for instance, and I can do layout vertical. So that becomes crucial when you have too many nodes. The level next we need to deal with is how do you nest them? How do I, inside Vint Cerf, make you a folder? And it
yeah,
really, the term that really has come up is actually the term folder really works because you're folding something.
yes.
So if you have a link to an external source or a folding to an internal source or a local, how does that differ? That's what we're trying to figure out now.
So there's something important to me. I don't realize we're almost out of time. As I look at this, I think of all the data structures that enable it, and I wonder how to externalize that. What do I mean by that? In the World Wide Web, we were able to make references to things that were not created by us. And that turned out to be really a powerful thing. The resolution is coarse, um, although I gather that there are some efforts to make the resolution a little bit more granular. The question here is whether and how we can take these various data structures that you've created, which I think of as being largely internal and within a space that you are in control of, and make them exportable. Yes.
I have thoughts on this. Number
Okay.
one, on the most boring thing, JSON works for everything, it seems, because it's so clean and simple.
Yeah.
Above that, I did something really fun about 6 months ago. I took a random document exported from author, put it in, I think it was Claude, and I said, what metadata can you extract from this? And it said, according to the visual meta.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it was so nice because the whole notion of visual meta was at some point in the future, AI will be able to read it, parse it. So even whatever visual meta we have, it can, I said, can you give it to me in JSON instead of BibTeX? Yeah, no problem, here it is. So that's one of the reasons I spent all this money on this futuristic laptop, so we can start doing local LLMs to do these translations.
This is lovely. The I'm still groping a little bit for the potential for webbish like features so that the powerful tools that you've created for individuals becomes in some fashion shareable. And a lot of what you've done is about shareability with regard to citation, for example. But I'm imagining, I mean, think about navigating the web versus navigating a document. How do we make the tools of document navigation expansible to be more like shareable web navigation? I'm not sure I'm saying this very well, but perhaps you get my intent.
You're saying it perfectly, and this is very close to our core research. Because what is a unit of knowledge? Is it a book? Is it a page? Is it a word? Right.
It's all of the above. It's all of the.
Exactly. So, I was working earlier today and I saw this in YouTube as I was choosing music, a review from a new electric car. And it just reminded me that a road, any car can drive on. Apple Computer or Microsoft can't own the road. That
Right.
has to be in XR being the next great hope, so to speak. So yes, the way it can be shared. And I do think, despite my community who is slowly coming in, Rob's already here, reluctance with AI, LLMs can help with some of the translations, not all. Oh, here's Fabienne. So if you have another word, another moment, Vint.
Yes, I do. Well, let me double check. Hang on just one second. Hi, Fabian. It's Vint. Just one moment.
Hello, hello.
Hello,
Uh,
hello. I love it when you say hello, hello. Hi, Carl. Do you have
Okay.
anything as cool as hello, hello,
I,
Carl?
I have to jump. I'm actually late for another call, unfortunately. So,
That's okay. I was just going to say, Vint, really briefly, this is what Fabian and I will be doing in Brussels on Friday. I'm taking the train so we can do exactly that data portability. It was wonderful to talk to you today, and let's stay in touch, and I look forward to your notes as to what we talked about.
okay, bye for now.
Bye.